The American Broadcasting Company and affiliated stations present Headline Edition with Taylor Grant. Today's edition presents a roundup of the latest developments in the finding of a flying disc.
Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucers. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like. In Fort Worth, Texas, where the object was first sent, Brigadier General Roger Ramey says that it is being shipped by air to the AAF Research Center at Wright Field, Ohio.
It looked like it was weightless. You couldn't feel that you had anything in your hands. I found one piece of metal, what looked like metal anyway. It was not flexible, but it was as thin as a foil in a pack of cigarettes. It was that thin. One of my boys told me, he said, there's something unusual here. He said, I tried to make a dent in this metal. He says, you can't bend it. You can't make a mark on it. He says, I took a sledgehammer and whammed it. I put it on the ground and whammed it. The sledgehammer bounced off of it. He told me not to say anything. He says, I'll handle it from now on. And that's exactly what he did. When he came out, he said, he told the press that was there, he said, that was nothing but a weather balloon, crashed weather balloon. It was definitely not a weather balloon. And so what it could have been, I wouldn't know. I still don't know.
They took pictures, of course. They had a whole flock of microphones there. They wanted me they wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So all I could do is keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who discussed, told the newspapers, the newsmen, what it was and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a weather observation balloon, of course, which we both knew differently. We left Roswell perhaps around 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As you can see, it's flat. It is very difficult. In fact, with just verbal directions, we never would have found it. We had to follow the rancher out there. The following morning, we went out to the site where the crash was. And what I saw, I couldn't believe there was so much of it. It was scattered over such a vast area. So we proceeded to pick up as much of the debris as we could, loaded in the wagon. We filled that up. It took us a good part of the day to do that, because we found a piece of metal about a 1.5 to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it. You couldn't dent it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and in our air travel. This is nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
Time hiding it, they get curious.
Tell me about the aliens. Tell me about the bodies that were found. Were they good-looking people, or were they...
Oh, yeah, they were. They didn't have any of these, slanted eyes or horny fingers, anything like that. They were... I don't know whether you want to call them people or so. I call them people because that's what I'm accustomed to looking at somebody as people, say. They were good-looking people. Fine skin. They were kind of ash-colored. That was the color of their skin. Eyes were just a little bit larger than ours, more pronounced. Small nose, a little small mouth, very small ears, see. No hair. Very fine features, very well built, maybe 5'4", 5'5" in height. That's what I could remember seeing.
Frank, in your personal opinion, what happened here in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico? What is your bottom line?
That in 1947, I can only put it this way, that a craft of unknown origin crashed north of Roswell. It was recovered with bodies not of this earth, which proved that we are not alone in this vast universe of ours.
Did not look like anything he had ever seen, and he said there were little people out there. And Mother asked him what he meant by little people, and he said they weren't human people, but they were little people. He said there were two that were already dead when they got there, and they were put into body bags. And I don't know if the one that was still alive had put them into the bags or if someone assisted at the time. There was one that was still alive and was walking around.
A flying saucer, and that they even found some bodies by it, and one of them was alive, and that the Army Air Force had come and threatened my father and his family to not mention anything at all about it.
Hauling the beings out of the creek to haul them away. And they look, what I've seen of them look just like the one you see on television, them huge cotton-picking eyes. It's like them. And that round thing is down there in the canyon. And it was a big round thing, it's about 100 feet across in the middle, looked like. They put all that on trucks and hauled it away, and they didn't let you get very close to them either. And sure, we didn't stay just a little bit till we got the prisoner and headed back to Big Spring.
So you were on your way from Big Spring into Roswell to pick a prisoner up?
Yeah.
And you just happened to be at the place when
It already had crashed.
it had already crashed?
Yeah, they're there taking them out and everything, and they was soldiers there, but God, I don't know how many there, but there must have been.
This was their home in July of 1947, and it was one summer evening. They were sitting out here. Dad looked up in the west and saw an object that came down and had lights blinking, and it was rather frightening to him, but he said all of a sudden it seemed to rock a little bit and sort of counterbalanced itself, wiggle a little bit, and then seemed to settle down and take off at a rapid rate of speed.
I learned a lot about Project Blue Book. Blue Book was discussed quite openly in the office. Sections of Blue Book were open for discussion, and then there were other matters as well that were brought to our attention one afternoon when we were just about ready to finish up training. It was about 3:30, maybe 3:45 in the afternoon. Colonel Hollibird brought out a piece of what appeared to be metallic. It was a metallic piece of looked like a yardstick. It had deciphering. It had encryption on it. He did describe them as being symbols of instruction, and that's as far as he would go. But he did infer that the instructions, whatever they might have been, were something that was important enough for the military to keep working on a constant basis. It seemed giant-like when I saw it because it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like this before, and all eyes were just peeled on that particular thing. And when he told us what it was, it it was frightening. It was eerie there. You could have heard a pin drop in the room when it was first mentioned. Well, he said it had been taken from one of the craft that had crashed in New Mexico, and that had been taken from a box of materials that the military was working on. They didn't use the word reverse engineering at that time, but it was something similar to the reverse engineering that they felt like they needed to work on, and it was going to take years to do that. 3 or 5 stands out in my mind as the number that were taken. One was alive, partially alive at the time that this happened, and I do not know what may have happened to him after.